Okay, hi guys, I'm back. I survived exams. As you can see, we're in a new location. I moved out of residence, or as in America, I think you guys call it dorms. I don't know. Today's video, I wanted to talk about how I improved and am continuing to improve my digital art skills. I started drawing digitally in I think like 2019, and I was originally using a Wacom tablet, which you just connect to your computer, draw on here while looking at the screen. I found that a bit challenging, and I already didn't really understand how to draw digitally properly, so the amount of time that I put into digital drawing wasn't enough to actually improve. I only ended up making like 3 or 4 pieces from like 2019 to 2020, and then from 2020 to 2021 I only made like 2 new pieces. So I kind of strayed away from digital art in 2022 and the beginning of 2023. And then for Christmas I got an Apple iPad with an Apple Pencil. So yeah, that was really helpful. Thanks to that, recently I have been putting a lot more time into actually improving my digital art skills. So I wanted to share with you guys today what I've been doing and what has been working for me, in hopes that maybe something will be helpful to you in this video. So stick around if that interests you. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Art by Madeline. I make art related videos, as it says in the name. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is using references. Oh my Jesus Christ, I don't know what the fuck I was thinking when I first started. I avoided using references because I thought I was cheating somehow. I don't know. I feel like this is a misconception that has been told to a lot of artists, but guys, please use references. I cannot tell you how much that has helped me improve, having trying to pull ideas just from your brain. Like, you can't do that. Even from the beginning of time, from the earliest years from which we have historical evidence of artists using references to create their art. Usually they'd have some sort of subject that they would be painting for hours. The point is, they used references. So use references. My advice is to use Pinterest, Google, Bing, Firefox, any browser. The search engines aren't always the greatest for image generation, so Pinterest is usually my go-to. Pinterest also caters the images that you search to your previous searches, so you're more likely to find something that is accurate to what you're actually searching for. But yeah, use references. Okay, number 2, brushes. When you first start digital drawing, test the brushes, choose the ones that you like the most based on how they blend, based on just how they work. Because if you're using brushes that are, like if you're using the default brush, for instance, the brushes that you are using are going to affect how your artwork turns out and how finished it actually looks. There are some brushes on certain drawing apps that are just not great. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on what your art style is. My advice would be to just draw a small sketch of like a face or something and redraw that face using different brushes over and over again. Don't make the sketch too complicated, obviously, because you're just testing out whether or not you like the brush or not. And then most drawing apps have a function where you can favorite the brush or add it to customs. For instance, I use Ibis Paint, and you can just press the plus button and it'll add it to your custom brushes. Yeah, select good brushes. Number 3, colors. Okay, when I first started digital drawing, I thought that you had to just select all your own colors just using your brain. Like when you're painting, for example, traditionally, you have to mix the paints, get the color to be as accurate to your reference as possible. I thought the same thing was true for digital art, But no, digital art gives you the luxury of being able to use a color palette from your reference image.
Wow.
I'm not sure how it works for other drawing apps, but for Ibis Paint, usually I will just hold down on my reference image, it'll copy that color from whichever part of the image that I'm holding down on, and then I can just use that color in my own artwork. But I do know that in other drawing apps, you can like put in an image and it'll extract like a palette for you, and you can save that palette if you like the colors that come out of it. Just depending on which drawing app you use, figure out how you can save colors from references, because no, you don't have to just do guesswork all the time, because that's what I was doing. And I'll put in an image of a couple of my artwork so you can see the colors are quite off in some of them. For instance, grass. My grass always turned out to be so like bright green, and I just hated it. It just did not look good. Take advantage of whatever coloring shortcuts your drawing app provides you. The other thing about colors is most drawing apps have some sort of tool where you can adjust the color hues. I was not aware of this when I first started, so take advantage of this, because if a color is looking kind of off, such as for me, often the skin tone that I start with doesn't match exactly the lighting that I'm trying to create within an art piece. So I can usually just go onto that layer, select filter in Ibis Paint, and then select, I think it's color hues, and you can adjust it accordingly. It allows you to adjust the brightness of the color, the saturation, and the hue. So you could completely change the color from pink to green if you wanted to. The fourth thing that I want to talk about is lighting. Okay, shading and lighting and adding highlights and all that. That was the step where I always got lost, and that's the step where I would always give up on my drawings. So what I have learned in the process of trying to figure out shading in digital art is, okay, I'll just tell you what my mistakes were, and then I'll tell you what I do now. So initially I would add a multiply layer onto whatever layer I'm trying to shade, and then I would choose some sort of like dark purple. It was always purple, because I watched some tutorial on YouTube that told me to do that. So that's what I would always do. And then I would just kind of guess. No reference, no nothing. Don't do that. What I do now is whichever reference I have picked, I always make sure that it has the exact lighting, or I'll find a reference for a pose and then a reference for the lighting. Because I don't know about you, but I don't know how the fuck lighting works. I have no idea how color theory works. I know I'm an artist, I probably should know that, but I don't. So I kind of just cheat, and whatever the reference is showing me, I just say, oh, okay, I guess the light does this. So yeah, always make sure you choose a good reference. Then now what I do, instead of using a purple always, I will ask myself, okay, so what color is the light? In the background there, I have a drawing of Gortash. There is a yellow light, yellowish orange light coming from behind him, and so the opposite color of yellow is purple. Something about color theory, I learned this in high school, I don't remember. Whatever color the light is, the shadow should be the opposite color of that. I think. I might be wrong, I might be sharing misinformation, but from what I remember learning and some tutorials that I watched on YouTube, I remember learning that from somewhere. So I created a multiply layer on top of everything colored, everything, all the line art, all of that. I will add a multiply layer onto that folder, and then I cover the entire layer in a dark purple color and adjust the opacity a little bit. Then I will add another multiply layer for the darker shadows, and then I'll do that again for the even darker shadows. Then for the highlights, I will add an add layer. I had no idea what the fuck the add layer was until recently, and I feel embarrassed to admit that, but the only layer that I ever knew how to use was multiply. I recently learned about ads, so that has been really helpful. I always wondered how artists created such saturated and bright colors in their artwork, which in the background there I have a drawing of Orin with a very bright red light kind of coming from behind her, and for that I used the ad layer. On top of the layer I'll add an ad layer and add whatever lighting the reference is showing me and whatever highlights. And then if I need to add another ad layer for brighter light, then I'll do that. The other thing that I like to do is I will add sort of an airbrush of like a pink color or whatever color looks good. I'm sorry, I know the specifics of my tips might not be the greatest right now, but you can, according to your opinion, whichever color looks best, I'll add an airbrush on the line of the shadow, specifically on the skin, because it adds, I don't know, I learned this from Coolene, might be controversial, but I learned this from Coolene, and I do think that it adds a little bit more dimension and color to your drawing. And the other thing I will do is within the shadows, I will add some sort of bounce light. So in the Gortash poster that I made, I added just a little bit of green to the shadows, and I don't know, I just felt like that added a little bit more dimension to it. But yeah, those were my tips for shading and highlights. I hope that was helpful. I know it was a bit all over the place, but there's that. Okay, so the fifth tip that I have is related to rendering. When I first started digital art, I did not render. I didn't know what rendering was. I didn't know how to render. I still don't really know how to render, and I don't really know what rendering is. But from what I have learned in the past couple months of improving my digital art is you basically just create a layer over top of everything, and you go in and add the small details, the small lighting, the clean up the lines, all of that. That's what you do in the rendering step. And it sort of just brings your whole drawing together, I find, and makes everything look cleaner. I'll show you a before and after of the rendering stage for the Gortash print that I made, because you can see sort of how that step really does help to clean everything up. What I like to do is I'll start with the face, and then I'll go to the hair, and then sort of work my way down, because I find it helpful to sort of get momentum going, because the rendering stage can be a little bit meticulous. So starting with something that's interesting, such as an expression, a face, anything that you find will help you build momentum in that step is usually best. My sixth tip is related to adding details, and that is I used to think that you had to draw every single little detail. Like, for example, when I used to draw grass, I would draw every single little strand of grass, and then I would copy and paste that layer all over, and it just didn't look great. What you need to understand when you're drawing something is the closer something is to the front of the image, the more detail it will have. So anything in the background, if you're lazy like me, what I do for the background is I will draw shapes in the background with different colors. Again, something I did with the Gortash painting. I pretty much just added shapes according to what my reference was showing me. And then I added Gaussian blur, and it looks pretty okay, I think. So if you're lazy like me, just use Gaussian blur and you'll be good. So for backgrounds and adding detail, there's usually an easier method than going through and adding every single detail. So just try to be smart about it, because you will lose patience and likely you will be like me and give up on your painting. I don't know if this is just me that struggles with this, because I feel like other artists, I always see they're like able to finish their artwork, but comment down below if you also struggle with this, because I don't know, I just always felt like I was like a bad artist because I couldn't finish my digital paintings. If you guys want to comment about your experience with that, it might make me feel a little bit better. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about with improving your digital art is practice. Practice. That's the only way you're gonna get better, by gaining experience. And I think that's something that I have always really lacked, was experience, because I was avoiding digital drawing and the full process of creating a finished digital drawing for so long. I would draw digitally, and I would draw on my laptop using my Wacom tablet, but I would just go through the sketching stage, and then if I was lucky, I would make it through the coloring stage, and then I would just give up. And so I'm pretty good at sketching and adding color layers, but other than that, you know, I had not had much experience with the rest of the steps. And due to that, most of my paintings throughout 2019 to 2019, what the fuck? 2020, sorry, I'm having an aneurysm. I wrote too many fucking exams last week. 2019 to 2022, I think that's why most of my pieces did not look the greatest. I was the type of person that would use airbrush to add light. So, you know, we can just move on from that. Okay, yeah, I was talking about practice. Sorry about that, I got sidetracked. You're only gonna improve if you continue to practice. My advice also for references, collect. Anytime you see an image or an art piece that inspires you, save it somewhere. Because, okay, first of all, let me just preface, never use another artist's artwork as your reference. You can use it as something to inspire you to create your own piece. You can look at it and be like, oh, this is really cool. I kind of want to create something similar. But you need to find your own references to help you and guide you through the process of actually creating that artwork. But yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about and of what I've been doing. If I missed anything that you think could be helpful for others to hear, comment down below. Like this video if it helped you at all, and subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. I would very much appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.